Hi everybody, this is Peter Chittum again from Salesforce.com with RevealJS and Force.com. This is the first of two code walkthroughs that I'm going to do to show how I got RevealJS working in the Force.com environment and in the Salesforce One mobile application. In this particular presentation, I'm just going to focus on the pure mechanics of getting RevealJS to play nicely with Visualforce. In addition to that, I'm going to show the static markup page that I built in Force.com. I'm going to do a follow-up presentation where I'll show the wiring of the RevealJS slide presentation into some live Salesforce data so we can have the dynamic presentation. Again, RevealJS is available at RevealJS.com. Incidentally, if you've been watching this and you're just interested in going and building some slides on it, it is hosted in the cloud at slides or slid.es. So go take a look at that if you're interested. To begin the walkthrough, I just want to briefly take a look at the RevealJS sample project. This is a sample project you can get if you just go and clone the RevealJS GitHub repo. I recommend spending some time looking at the markup here. It gives a lot more examples of some of the cool things that you can do. In my particular slideshow, I'm keeping it fairly rudimentary because my focus is, again, on the actual inclusion of RevealJS into the Force.com world as it is. So you can see RevealJS has a fairly straightforward structure. A couple of things around RevealJS. First one is the actual CSS here. So there's a Reveal CSS and a theme CSS that you can use. In addition to that, if I go way down to the bottom, we'll find where we are actually including the actual JavaScript for RevealJS. And in addition to that, you can see where we can actually set parameters for certain behaviors of the slideshow. So for instance, if we didn't want to see the little arrow controls in the RevealJS slideshow, we could turn those off here if we wanted to. The slideshow itself is all structured in the body tag of your HTML page, of course. There's a div with a reveal class. Inside of that, a div with the slides class. And once you have that, you just create sections. So every section component that's found inside of the slides div will become itself a slide. One of the features I showed in my walkthrough of the actual slide presentation was vertical slides or stacked slides. All that you do in this instance is you nest a set of sections inside of another section. And finally, how do you animate items? If I add this fragment class to any component on a slide, the slide will render without that component visible, and then either if I swipe, if I'm on a touch-based user interface, or if I use the arrow key to move forward on the slides on my laptop or desktop, it will then animate that feature. There are lots of other things you can do with RevealJS. I'd encourage anyone who's interested in this library to spend more time with that. I just wanted to show a couple of things that I'm using so that I got this working. Now, this particular project here, as I said, is a clone of the standard RevealJS project. And the first thing I needed to do was to get the actual JavaScript and CSS files into my Salesforce environment. So what I did was I grabbed things like CSS, like the JavaScript itself. I grabbed the sample HTML page just so I could have that up there. And I grabbed the plugins, and I wrapped those up into a zip file here. And I took that zip file and imported it into my Salesforce environment. This is one portion of the setup menu in Salesforce.com. And you can see I've just filtered down the setup menu a little bit. There we go. And I'm looking at something called a static resource. This is the way that we actually include static files in our multi-tenant environment. So I took that zip file, I've uploaded it here, and that's how I'm going to actually get to those static files on the Salesforce web servers. So let's pop over and take a look at the static version of RevealJS in the Force.com platform. Here's my Visualforce page. It's called Reveal Static page. And at the top of that, Apex page is my standard root tag for a Visualforce page. Visualforce by default renders in HTML 4.01, so we forced the doc type to 5.0 so we can take advantage of all those cool HTML5 features like CSS transitions and such. Show header false and standard style sheets false allow me to remove and to basically rip out all of the standard Salesforce look and feel that it would normally appear in a Visualforce page. And then finally, because I wanted more fine-grained control over where the body tag would render itself, I turned off the automatic rendering of the body tag that Visualforce does by setting this apply body tag attribute to false. Inside of my header then, I have pretty much the same stuff as we had in the sample reveal project. So you can see here I'm including the style sheet and the theme style sheet. The only difference is now I'm actually referencing that static resource that I uploaded. So it's a slightly different notation to get to it in this page, but same thing. There's my CSS. And if I go to the bottom of my page, I'll find those same JavaScript files, again, sitting in that static resource. Inside my body, I have, again, the reveal div, the slides div, and sections. I included the fragment class. Adding the roll-in class gives it a specific type of animation. And again, this is all documented in the Reveal project. I also have some examples of stacked slides. So here's one here where I have separate sections nested inside an outer section so that I can get that stack of slides to appear. That pretty much sums it up. In the next presentation, I will take a look at how I got this whole structure wired into Salesforce.com data so that I could have a dynamic presentation based on the data in my Force.com environment. Thanks very much.